Much.
Some new developments out of Italy as American Amanda Knox fights to have her murder conviction overturned. The court shooting down a prosecution request for a new round of DNA tests. This after experts slammed the evidence used in the original trial that convicted Knox of murdering her roommate. So what does it mean for Knox's chances for freedom? Let's bring in our legal panel now. Criminal defense attorney Sharon Liko joins us, along with former prosecutor Dan Conaway. Dan, the prosecution asked for a number of things. They wanted to do some more DNA testing. They wanted to bring in some records that they apparently just found on the DNA test machines that were used. All of it got shot down by the judge. As a former prosecutor, that doesn't bode well.
No, it really doesn't, John. I think this was a major blow for the prosecution. At the same time, I think what the prosecution has to argue is, look, we're trying to do our job and we're trying to do it correctly, and there is some new testing available, some ways that they can examine this evidence that may be more accurate now than 4 years ago. And so their argument is essentially, look, we're trying to get to the truth here just as much as the court is. That's our job as prosecutors, and so let us do our jobs and let us do these tests. But the judge has now shot that down.
But Sharon, it's not just a question of better tests being available. It's a question of whether the original evidence was collected in such a way that makes it possible to test it, right?
Right. There was a lot of problems with the way the original evidence was collected. It was contaminated. They used dirty gloves. They left evidence at the crime scene for weeks before they collected it. It was a mess. But this girl is innocent. This was a railroad job. The person that really committed this murder is already in prison. It's this drifter, this Rudy Guinea. His handprints, his fingerprints, blood, saliva, DNA was all over the victim's bedroom. Amanda Knox wasn't. She was her roommate. There was DNA found on a knife that did not have any blood evidence linked to it. The bedroom was completely devoid of any of Amanda's DNA. There was no saliva, no sweat, no blood, no nothing. Yeah. She should be released.
And Dan, there is no motive as far as I know. The prosecution could never explain why she would have committed a murder of her roommate.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I think that is a huge issue in this case. Now, the prosecution doesn't have to provide motive, but motive is sitting there as a glaring issue in this case. And quite frankly, I do think that we're seeing here some of the limitations of the European system of justice. I think that if this were a jury system, if this were a common law system, an adversarial system like we have here in the United States, that a lot of these issues would have already been brought up and been hammered home by both sides during the original trial and during the original investigation. Now we have judges looking at all this stuff. And in my opinion, I think this does show the superior nature of America's criminal justice system over the European inquisitorial investigative system.
Dan Conaway and Sharon Liko, thank you both.